I'm live. Alright. Well, first of all, thank you to everyone who got me into the marathon here. Thanks so much to everyone who's come to watch the Rogue-a-rama. And it's really an honor to be here, and I'm glad to be part of this marathon. Just thanks to Skip and to everyone who has invited me to be part of this event. I'd like to thank all of them. I'd like to thank my own viewers for coming out to show their support, and I'd also like to dedicate this run here today, as well as the one that's going to follow, for my beloved Skyla, who's been going through some tough times lately and who's trying to figure out things in her life. I hope that she'll be able to come around and be able to turn it around for herself, and life will be better for her. So without further ado, I should introduce you to the character who I'll be playing as in my Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood run. This is my Mikote Mathia, who is, as you can see, dressed up like a bunny rabbit, but there's a good reason for that. You can see there he has an Easter egg on his clip to his jacket. That's part of a special outfit that was made available for this year's Easter event, because Final Fantasy XIV does a lot of events around real life holidays, the seasons, things like that. And on Tuesday, they're actually going to bring out a special crossover event with Final Fantasy XV. So yeah, there's a lot of reason to be playing this, and not the least of which includes the introduction of the game's newest expansion, which comes out in 3 months. So we have a lot to look forward to with this game, and so it's my honor to be playing this for you here today, here at Rogue-a-rama. So what do you say we get into it? So this is going to be done as my Red Mage. Red Mage is known as the class that is primarily responsible for setting a lot of the solo world records. We're going to be going into a total of 13 dungeons, all of which are from the 2.0 part of the game, which is from the A Realm Reborn storyline. This is what you get into when you start the game from the very beginning. And these are the 13 dungeons that you play, which would normally be with 3 other people, known as a light party. And you would go as a party of 4, go to these 13 dungeons, 7 of which are part of the main story, 6 are optional. And then you go on to 2 more dungeons where it becomes an 8-person party, and you go to beat the game. And then after that, you get to see everything else that this game has to offer. So we're definitely going to be enjoying this opportunity to take part in this marathon. So what do you say we get started? So time will start with our first movement within the first dungeon. You'll note when the words "duty commenced" appear on screen. So without further ado, let's go to our first of 13 dungeons, Sastasha. And you'll see on my hotbar that I have, when I go into the dungeon, that I have a lot of abilities. These are the ones that I'm going to be using the most. So we start with our first dungeon, Sastasha. So when the words "duty commenced" appear, the time starts. And go. So something you'll see me using a lot are Cora Core and Displacement. Cora Core allows me to perform a dash attack, while Displacement allows me to attack while backflipping. I'll also be using Magnification, which allows me to reset these abilities. And what I want to do is do what's known as kiting. Take all the enemies as far as I can to where the mini-bosses are going to be located. This is going to be happening in quite a few of these dungeons. And ultimately along the way, I do want to try and kill as many of the enemies as I can, using abilities like Repost, especially against weaker enemies as we go along. In some cases, you'll find where timing just doesn't work out and you end up missing your target. But we'll make the best we can with what we've got. And we want to pull this all the way to this area right here. We crossed the purple line that lets us know we're in the domain of the first mini-boss. Now we get to kill everything that we just went by. Get rid of as fast as we can. Now it's time for RNG. Sastasha is one of 2 dungeons where it's RNG dependent. If you get it right, like I just did there, you unlock this door. You unlock this switch, which allows us to gain access to the first mini-boss, which can be killed in one shot because this is under solo, I'm considered to be unrestricted, and so even though the minimum level requirement for this dungeon is 15, I'm actually coming in here, which is at the maximum currently allowed experience level, which is 70. So yeah, that's a serious stark contrast from playing this under normal circumstances. So that's why instead of finishing this in the normal 15 to 20 minutes, which is the usual finish time for a dungeon, we'll be finishing these dungeons a lot faster. And what we want to do is make sure everything gets killed off. And sometimes the enemies just don't work the way you want them to. But that tends to happen when you're playing a game like this. Alright, so having picked up the key from the pirates... Yeah, and if you couldn't tell, we're in a pirate den. Yeah, I also have abilities like Fletch and Contre Six, which will allow me to just make mincemeat out of these guys. And just run right through them. Yeah. While my back is turned. Try and get a little fancy with these guys. And so now we gotta make our way to the next mini-boss, which is actually a repeat of the mini-boss we just faced, which is Captain Madison here. Yeah, we beat him the first time, and we're gonna beat him again. But now we want to make sure we can get to the end of the dungeon as fast as we can, so that we can get to the true final boss of this dungeon. Yeah, you'll see me dashing through a whole bunch of enemies. I will have to kill them no matter what, even when fighting the final boss. But this final boss is no problem. He's basically this game's version of the Zora from The Legend of Zelda. But he's not going to sell us flippers for 500 rupees. I think I can get away from you. Nope. He wants me to let him kill him first. Yeah, there we go. There's our first of 13 dungeons down. Alright, next up is the Tamtara Deep Croft. Yeah, well, making sure to pay attention to the Rogue-a-rama chat, but yeah, you do start out at level 1, but you don't get to enter your first dungeon until level 15. So Tamtara is an interesting case where it's the first dungeon where it's a truly story-based dungeon. As it pertains to the original Final Fantasy XIV, because as I'm sure many of you are aware, Final Fantasy XIV in its original version was the Sonic 06 of the Final Fantasy franchise. But Square Enix thankfully saw the error of their ways and decided they needed to do something about it. They did. They gave us this, and it's been a welcome, appreciated gift to the not just fans of Final Fantasy, but video gaming period. And so this place is considered to be canon because of the fact that you come here and you have to deal with a bunch of cultists who glorify a moon called Dalamud. Dalamud is basically this game's version of the moon from Zelda Majora's Mask. I want to hit this guy specifically because if I let him go, he's going to give me a hard time later. So it's better that I do away with him right away. So we're just going to keep dragging all these guys to where we need to take them. And then we'll do away with what's here. Oh. I was about to say I needed to hit that guy, but yeah, he died faster than I thought. Got a crit hit better than I was expecting. I also got very good RNG placement because of the way the enemies were set up too. That worked out very well. Alright, time to get running again. Oh, these guys are perfectly positioned for me to kill them off. Yeah, the varlets are the Akmena varlets are the ones I really need to be worried about, because they're the mages. And mages will always attack you from distance. So it's always important to get rid of those guys as fast as you can. Oh, this'll be interesting. Alright, got rid of them. Now that Jesus leaves me a clean, unrestricted line to use my Swift Cast ability, which allows me to cast the spell immediately. Couldn't quite get all of them, but that's fine. We can drag this one guy back. Do away with him. Then hit this barrier. Oh, that guy survived. But that's alright. So now we have to deactivate these last two orbs. And that'll give us the opportunity to open up the path to the final boss. And if we don't kill the final boss in one hit, he goes invincible because of some backup that he gets. But no need to worry about that. He's dead in one shot. Yeah, that's the biggest worry about that boss, is if you don't kill him fast enough, he will go invincible, and you have to kill the reinforcements who generate a force field on him. So, Tamtara is actually one of the shortest dungeons in this run, but we're now going to go into the longest one, which is Copperbell Mines. And the length of this dungeon is big in itself, but what makes it even longer is the way that the mini-bosses are set up. You'll see why when we get into this run. So once they let me loose, go ahead and start dealing damage to various things. One of them gives me a key, which I have to use. And we'll go ahead and use it on the door. And so, since this is a mine, old school, there are no such things as mine carts. So, sorry to all the Minecraft fans who were expecting that. Now, here's where we can really let loose. And we can just hit these Spriggans, these little bunnies, as well as these Coblins, and just make sure that they're not giving us a hard time later. Yeah, I can just pick them off one at a time, and yeah, I don't even need to worry about those guys being directly in my way. I would only attack those guys if they're right in my path, but no need to worry about that this time around. Also going to use that to eliminate most of the other enemies that were tailing me. Oh, it looks like I'm about to pick up a friend. So we gotta do away with him before we can pick up this Fire Stain, which we also require. Yeah, you also have to pick up a lot of stuff in this place. You do have to pick up a lot of stuff in this place, and so something that we absolutely have to do. And you do require 2 portions of Fire Sand in order to put them into the chamber, which will allow you to trigger the detonator and blow away clear to where we're going next, which is the first mini-boss. Yeah, one of the few instances where minecart tracks are actually present. So our first mini-boss is unique in the fact that it's not a single enemy. It is an enemy gauntlet. And this does take quite a while to do. So we have to wait for the enemies to show up because they are on a fixed timer. And I gotta wait for them to all come to me and try and kill them in groups as best as possible. Yeah, by and large, I do have the timing being set for some, but the way that Red Mage is set up is that you can have the opportunity to cast a spell immediately after you cast one. Yeah, it's known as a dual cast, so you can cast the spell pretty much immediately after you cast the first one. But you only get so much time to use it. You'll see the pink icon at the top of the screen that tells me how much time I have to use it, but it's gonna go expire because I have to wait for this flambeau bomb to arrive. Then we can cast again. Wait for everything to come together. Ah, this guy was able to stay just far away enough. Right, this time I'm gonna dash into him. Yeah, it's basically just repeating this for like a good solid 2 minutes. Yeah, it's like I said, it's one of the reasons why this place is very slow. So now that we killed our third bomb, we're finally at the point where we get to say hello to the boss, Kodos. We got a little surprise for him. We're gonna backflip him to death. Also, in case you're wondering why I'm ignoring the treasure chests, they have pieces of gear, but they're very lowly pieces of gear because this is a level 17 dungeon. And like I said, I'm at level 70. So there's really no reason for me to get such low-level gear. Alright, so down another elevator to get to another shaft. You know, just get rid of that Iron Soul right away. So we're gonna have to go now into fighting these blasting caps, provided they want to cooperate with me. I'm gonna see if I can pull this guy over. Oh, come on. Are they running? No! Yeah, admittedly, that was an experiment. Yeah, not the best time to do experimentation, but then again, this is Rogue-a-rama. Yeah, a few days ago, I got this crazy idea like, hey, why don't we try this? Yeah, I was like, why don't we try bringing the two blasting caps together and kill them at once? But nope. It's one of the rare instances where you have enemies that will only go a certain distance before they retreat. And sadly, that one didn't work out for me. Alright, so now here's the second mini-boss, who is no end of frustrating. The Icarus Ire. So what we're going to do with him is we're going to start attacking him, but under normal circumstances, you would never do this. You would never do what I'm doing because of the fact that Icarus Ire cannot be destroyed normally. This is another one of those instances where I'm so overpowered that I can be able to do something like this where I can weaken him to a point and get him down low enough on health where I can actually do a phase skip. Alright, so once I got him down low enough, I'm going to run over here to the blasting device and trigger a bomb to spawn. Then I'm going to kill off this version of Icarus Ire so they split into two. Now I want to keep the Ires together as well as the blasting cap, because this is one of the rare instances where enemies can be damaged by AoE. So the blasting cap will self-destruct, cause these guys all to split into four, but they all take damage the same way as the original version of Icarus Ire. So we have to keep going until we get him down to 8 pieces. And we're gonna backflip off of them to get some distance in order to be able to touch the blasting device, because if you get touched by an enemy, if you're damaged by an enemy while you're trying to interact with something, it's negated, it gets canceled out, and you have to do it all over again. So better to just focus on killing the enemies in front of you rather than trying to cheat the system. So now that they're all 8 pieces, one conscious sixth takes them out. So we'll go ahead and do what we've been doing before. Powder in the powder chamber. Set the trigger. And go. I'm going to intentionally ignore these guys because I'm going to get to these ones. And then we'll have everything chase me down to where the next final boss is for Copperbell Mines. Yeah, he's a big bad Minotaur, and he has a habit of going to call in reinforcements by breaking down the walls of the cave, but that's not going to happen here. Yeah, like many of the early bosses that you'll see, he'll die in one hit. Yeah, and of course, given the you want to try and make sure you can kill every enemy as much as you can with your group spells. Sometimes they don't always go where they're supposed to. So, off to Halatali. Alright, so next up is Halatali, which is the dungeon that is the first side dungeon. You come here at level 20, and this is a dungeon that also helps you in other ways because you get what are known as hunting logs in this game, and you can be able to go to various locations in order to kill required enemies in order to get various rewards. And Halatali is an instance of being one of the few dungeons where it's required that you go into it in order to kill a certain enemy to complete the requirements of the said hunting log. So yeah, we're going to try and do it with these guys as best as we can. Now here's the hard part. Hoping that we can one-shot this mini-boss, because if we can't, we won't be able to escape. Thankfully, one-shot it. And I'm able to just get away before the enemies attack me. If they landed a blow on me, I would not have been able to leave, and I would have been forced to fight them off. Yeah, one scythe just got away, just far enough. So now I have to hit these chain winches, which, depending on what is triggered, I will either have to do with these lightning sprites and kill them, or I can ignore them. So yeah, gotta get these enemies out of the way before I hit the winch. Yeah, if it says treasure chest or a bomb, I have no issue. I can just move on normally. I'm gonna bring you guys to me, just to get you bunched up so you can die with that. And then have you three come over. Kill you off, and then hit the winch. And another treasure chest. All's good. All's good. All's well. I couldn't quite kill the one. That's okay, because he's gonna die regardless. Yeah, in case you noticed, being a red mage means not only am I using spells, but I'm also using a sword. So red mages are the spell sword of this game. They were introduced in the current expansion known as Stormblood, which also introduced as well samurai to the game. So this is actually an instance where I can just ignore the sprites and run over here in order to try and one-shot another mini-boss in order to successfully escape from the enemies that are chasing me. He's down in one hit. Now, under normal circumstances when you fight him, he can go invincible when standing in the puddle of water that he's in, and he sends out a whole bunch of lightning sprites to go after you. And you have to kill off the lightning sprites in order to make him vulnerable to attack again. And hopefully, if I'm lucky, I'll be able to sneak around these guys, which I did. Or did I? Oh, yes, I did. Yeah, we got away with one there. Well, I'll just do away with them. And that leads us to another enemy who can also use the elements to render himself invincible under normal circumstances, Tangata, but yep, he goes down one shot too because of his low level. Yeah, normally he'll use fire to render himself invincible. Alright, next up. The 1,000 Maws of Totorak. Now, if you don't know what a Ma is, in this game, it's basically a prison. But in this case, it's an abandoned prison. And this place has got a lot of things that you need to take into account when you're running it. But I can see an enemy standing right in front of me, which means it's perfectly positioned to get hit with my core, and then I can immediately hit you. Now, can I get this photo cell before I'm touched? Yes, I can. Yeah, I need these photo cells in order to advance in this particular dungeon. Yeah, I need 4 to access every mini-boss in this game, or in this dungeon, of which there are 2. So this is a required exercise. Yeah, just take the core and displacement and just backflip right to the photo cell. Show off a little fancy action for you guys. Now in this instance, I do need to fight off these guys, but I'm also going to get the attention of these ones over here. Oh, he didn't die? What did I miss? Well, he has to die anyway. Yeah, they all have to die. Or else they're just gonna chase me all live long day. I think I can get this before I'm touched, which I can. Now I have to put the cells in this terminal in order to make the boss spawn. And then I can just one-shot them. Then I can do it for real. And away we go. Barriers down, that one you just saw. Now I'm going to get these guys to chase me. Or, oh wow. Yeah, that'll be RNG actually working against me because these enemies are now the ones that give me the photo cells. What normally happens is the guy that's further away from me, not the one closest to the cell door, has the photo cell. Yeah, it's very rare that the one that's standing in the cell actually has the photo cell. So yeah, that's an instance of RNG not on my side. So in this instance, well, normally what would have happened is that I would have killed the first whip so that I didn't have to worry about him later, and then get the one who would have normally had the photo cell chase me. And then I would get all these whips together so that when the opportunity presented itself, I can collect all of the photo cells in this one area at once. Alright, so off we go. Let me use my core to try and get myself a little closer to the enemy, but it worked. Alright, I need to cut through here. And it's time to go and help ourselves to some more bad guys. Finish you two off. Alright. So now that we have our required 4 cells, yeah, you saw we got into the boss area with 1 cell short, but I know from having run this dungeon so many times where to get the 4th one. And one-shot you. And then put the cells in the terminal. And away we go again. And now for the fun part. Getting slowed to a crawl by this slime. Something else we can also do is use these fleshy pods to boost ourselves further. They're one-shot kills. And they'll explode and poison you if you are too close. Like that. But I also want to be on the stones as much as I can. Just so that I'm spending as little time in the slime as possible. Yeah, it can be quite a bit of a journey getting through this last section. We want to try and It's not my line of sight. Oh. Alright, weave my way around. And I'm gonna try and get these guys off my back so that I can give myself a bit of breathing, hopefully. Because I want to try and outrun them to the door here and open it. Got it. Yeah, that one might showed up just in time for me to backflip off of him, so that's very convenient. Alright, almost to the final boss. Now we can take on Graphius, this giant scorpion. One-shot him. And then do away with the mites that came along for the ride. Alright, that's 5 down, 6 to go. Or 8 to go, rather. We're going to Dungeon 6, which is Hawk Manor, the game's obligatory haunted house. Just needed to get some water in between dungeons there. So this is another instance of going into a dungeon where the characters involved have a legit backstory. Most notably, the final boss has a very heartbreaking and tragic backstory associated with them. So if you ever play this game, you'll need to see what happened to this final boss and why they ended up the way they did. I'm gonna see if I can do something real fancy, and the answer is yes. I want to bring everyone over here. Then we'll open the door. Also, I can't move on. Yeah, there's an enemy to my right, but I can't ignore that one. And we can charge right into the mini-boss. Holy cow. Yeah, you went down in a hurry. Yeah, I almost got that close to one-shotting her. That was really good. Yeah, because I've never actually one-shot that boss before, and I guess I'll have to keep waiting for another time to do it. Yeah, do it with them so I can grab the key. And now, we could easily go to that door and get access to the boss, but it's not that easy. We gotta go the long way around. Oops. Oh, there's an instance of not going where I wanted to go. I'm gonna do away with the maidservant right away because maidservants in this place, it hasn't been shown off yet, but they can be trouble. So I want to make my way over to this door. And then once we've dealt with those guys, open the door with the key. And do away with these as fast as we can. Now we need this yellow key because that accesses the door for the boss room. That's why we had to take this insane detour. Right. Open the door. Alright, try and do away with you quickly. There we go. Pick up the bloody parchment you left behind. Now here's one of the rare instances where you can use an ability that has nothing to do with combat to go back to the start, because we need to go back to the start. Because only then can we access the top floor of the dungeon. So we're back at the beginning. And then we're going to come up here to use the bloody parchment to deactivate this sealed barrier. Which we'll then use to come around here. deal enough damage to the sentry to force them to open the door and get access to the final boss. Here's the tragic final boss who made some very questionable decisions in her life, and it ended up costing her a lot more than it should have, and it resulted in this place becoming a haunted house. Nice. So now from a haunted house to a vast jungle in Brayflox's Long Stop. Yeah, the reason you come here for Brayflox's Long Stop is because you need to, within the story, get a specific item. And it only exists once you make it to the end of this place. Yeah, my main targets for the first part of this are the Galagos. They're my main targets. Because these things will throw stuff at you, and because they're ranged, they can prevent you from speaking with this Goblin Pathfinder to pick up a key that you need. So yeah, do away with those Calibri. Oh, get you two out of the way. There we go. So now we can open the door. We won't even bother with fighting the little friends that he has, just because we're that strong. And his friends just disappear. So yeah, here's another instance of us ignoring the enemies. And if we're lucky, we won't even have to fight most of them. Yeah, can't avoid them all, though. So now we have a two-part boss that we gotta confront. We got this guy. And then, if all goes well... held on by a point. He held on by a point. Yeah, sometimes bosses will do that. You think you got them, but then they hold on by the narrowest of margins. Now we're trudging through the swamp in order to get to our next mini-boss. You know, we got all these enemies coming my way, but we won't need to worry about them. Now it's a main focus of... Yeah, we got this dragon who just crashed down, but now he's flying away because we did enough damage to him. And that gives us more than enough time to do away with these guys. So with them out of the way, we can move on. Hit the door. And we're all good. Back to the pop of him. Back to the pop of him. And we got a clean line to the boss. Now what's interesting about this boss, Ayatar, here is that he has the ability to actually heal himself, but in a very unusual way. He can heal himself by puking on you. And if he's standing within his own puke, he can actually get healed off of it. So yeah, comforting thought, huh? Alright, moving on to our next side dungeon, the Sunken Temple of Karn. Yeah, Sunken Temple of Karn is the second dungeon where you come in here to kill specific enemies in order to achieve certain things for your objectives. So, into a star-filled night we go. Will the stars align right for this particular dungeon? The main thing we'll need to focus on while going through this dungeon are going to be the bees. The bees have an ability called Final Sting, which, if used, will deal a huge amount of damage to you, no matter how strong you are. Yeah, it doesn't matter how strong you are. If you get hit with a final sting by a Temple B, it's basically kamikaze on you. You're screwed. Ah, what am I stuck on? No! Yes, and sometimes that'll happen. You'll end up glitching and getting stuck on weird stuff. Now, I need to get rid of this B because I want to have a clean line to attack this Avoirdupois, who needs to stay on his platform. If he comes off the platform, he will not have weight on the platform, and that will allow him to revive. He's basically a really antique key, and if he's not used the right way, he'll just keep coming back to life until you use him correctly. Now jump around over the corner. We've got a line right to our next mini-boss, who, under normal circumstances, you have to hit his Soul Stone first to destroy that, and then hit the Guardian himself in order to weaken him properly. But the Soul Stone does keep regenerating and respawning, so you do have to keep dealing with it as you go along in this place. So it's very important to keep that in mind. Now, take a corner. Clean line to the Deathclaw here. We're not going to worry about his friend, at least not yet. Yeah, so now here's where we're going to be forced to get the Avoirdupois to stand right where we want him to. Alright, so he keels over where he's supposed to. That caused that gate to drop down. And so now we're just going to do it again. And we're free to go. So now you'll notice these scales of judgment that we're approaching. If we were doing this normally, what we would have to do is we would have to get all these enemies to... we would have to use all the Avoirdupois to get access to some tablets. But since we're not using the tablets, we just do it without them, and we get these enemies to spawn. It's a lot faster to do it this way than it is to go out of your way to get the Avoirdupois to go and do what you need them to. Alright, it's time to deal with the Adjudicator. And that takes care of him. Alright, next optional dungeon. Cutter's Cry. Yeah, this place is basically how many caves can you keep diving into? You'll see what I mean as we get into this place. It's certainly fun for how it's designed, and it also can be quite a bit of a challenge as well, because now we're getting into dungeons that are more high level. This one is at 38 as experience level. So yeah, we are required to kill all these enemies here. And then those shifting stains appear, so we go dropping in from one cave into another cave. Oh, yeah, I'm probably not gonna get that lucky. Ah, he held on! Yeah, another one of those that held on with his dying breath. Alright, bring everything in. And finish you off. Ah, he survived! So many close calls in this run. Alright, but now we have a opportunity to really get moving. Yeah, use my core and displacement to get right to this Myrmidon princess, who normally would be, when you damage them enough, would be summoning some reinforcements in order to try and heal themselves. Princess will be trying to heal herself using her reinforcements. So there's a fancy mech that you got to use in order to prevent that from happening under normal circumstances. So yeah, for the most part, we're going to try and ignore the enemies and just try and get over to the shifting sands. And then we'll just repeat the process, this time going the opposite direction. It doesn't matter which direction you go, except that the circle is irregularly shaped, so it's more likely to have a better time going one way than another. Alright, now we got a giant tunnel worm whose name is basically exactly what it is that he says he is. Oh, and it's gonna stay out a little while longer. He just held on. Okay, so now we're into the final cave. We want to make sure we can get good use out of our abilities along the way. There aren't that many enemies to get to the end of this place, so we're really going to want to try and use what we've got as best we can to progress ourselves further. Alright, there we go. He's not quite in range because I'm already running far enough away from him. So hang it right here and make our way towards the goal. Back off the golem. And then get right into it with the chimera. This should be enough to do you in. And it is. Deal away with these guys. And we're free to go. Okay, so from going from a desert cave to going to a castle in the snow, we're heading off to the Stone Vigil. Yeah, Stone Vigil you get access to after doing what's probably considered the most frustrating ordeal in the main story of 2.0. It takes you a long time to get here, you have to do a lot of stuff, but it's ultimately worth it in the end, because you're ultimately trying to get something that helps you out within the storyline in this place. This is also probably the best place for speedrunning, is this dungeon. Because you can really run free here. And you can really do some very fancy tricks too in this place that just help you save a lot of time. Now we get the first mini-boss, whose name... I always mention this in my streams, but his name reminds me the most of Pseudo-Wudo from Pokemon. So I always think of Pseudo-Wudo when fighting Chudo-Yudo, that first mini-boss you just saw. And once my sprint is available again, we'll go ahead and backflip off this guy. Yeah, it's always best to try and take out the big guys if you can. So do away with the Avis. Get rid of the Ziz. And then hang a corner to get to the second mini-boss, who would normally have a friend here. But since we're going as fast as we are, we don't need to worry about it, and we can just use our spells to do away with the boss, and then we can just start running again. Yeah, what you would normally do on his friend is there was a trio of cannons behind me. You would use those cannons in order to help yourself out to do away with his friend. Because he keeps coming back. Ooh, this is going to be interesting. Yeah, I want to try and backflip here and try and open this gate before I get ganged up on. Safe! Yes! Yeah, that was close. Now for the mini-boss. Alright, so he's going to fly away. I actually had an instance one time just literally a few days ago where I used that move and he did not fly away. And that allowed me to get within 2 seconds of the current world record for this level. Which was really cool, and I was so surprised, like, because I had never seen that happen before. And it was really cool when it happened. Because I was so shocked, I was like, I don't know what to do! Other than just keep attacking. Alright, next up. Zamel Darkhold. Another creepy cave that has quite the reputation within the game because of the fact that you have to do some waiting, as it were. This is a dungeon where you're required to perform mechs where you just have to stand around and pretty much do nothing and wait for the mechanics to be fulfilled. You'll see what we mean when we get there. So, start running through the first section. We're also going to be dealing with mechanics that involve this purple light coming off these crystals. These crystals become important as we progress along here. We'll make good use of our displacement and core. Yeah, we want everything to come over to this wide open area right here. And so now we're required to stand in these Magitech terminals. And we have to continue to remain in them until it turns off, because it's got this door that you can't see on screen right now closed. Alright, so once that's turned off, we can start attacking these two. Yeah, what we really want to focus on is this big flying eyeball. And hope that he doesn't fly too far away. So yeah, we got a really good fortune there with how quickly everything turned off. So we cannot damage this guy until he gets to his starting position, and only then we have to wait until he gets into this purple light, and only then can he be damaged. So we have to wait for him to come over. Alright, took care of them. Yeah, I'm saving my sprint for the next section. And away we go. So the biggest thing I'm going to need to be worrying about in this particular area are the Nyx. If I don't get rid of the Nyx, they are going to get a hold of me with a very troll-like ability. And yeah, I think I'm just about to be on the receiving end of it, because yeah, this actually happened the last time I was doing a speedrun marathon, where I thought I was safe from the Nyx that was beneath me, but it turns out he got his eyes on me. So we're going to have to put up with the crap that he's going to be doing when we get to the mini-boss. Yeah, he's definitely one of those intangibles that, depending on where he is, he can just absolutely just screw things up for you. Alright, so now that we made it over here, everything come over. So there's what the Nyx does. He uses that sticky tongue ability. And that can just mess everything up for you. Alright, let's do away with the boss. Alright, still need to get rid of you guys. Alright, run over here now. So we gotta do more of the same. Oh wow, he died in one hit. That was unexpected. So then we gotta let this guy blow on me, so we actually need him to backflip to where the next one of these blue circles is, the Magitech terminals. So yeah, while all the enemies are doing their thing, we'll launch off of him and go right to where we need to go next. Alright. And we just wait for this to run out. And away we go. Now we just have a clean line to our next destination, which is the final boss. And that was an unexpected turn. Yeah, that was a very unexpected turn. Well, we'll do fine, hopefully. Alright, made it to the final boss. Now, here we have to try and kill this guy as quickly as we can, or else he's going to give us a hard time later. Ah, he just held on, and we're forced to do his mechanic, the Corrupted Crystal. We gotta break this thing in order to make him vulnerable to attack again. Held on by a point. Yeah, you gotta kill him as fast as you can before he can do that. It's not easy to prevent him from doing that, so yeah, he just barely held on. We're down to the last two dungeons. We're down to dungeon 12. Yeah, don't worry. I know what the end is. Alright, so next up is the Aurum Vale, which is another short dungeon is really optimal for speedrunning. Yeah, we can take a whole bunch of ways to go in order to get to where we need to be. These guys are just chasing me, and that's gonna happen a lot. What normally happens, you see this marble fruit. What's normally supposed to happen is that the first mini boss and the final boss all have abilities that give you this permanent status affliction that can only be negated if you eat the marble fruit. And yes, this place does have more bowls. You probably know them best as Marlboros. The creatures known for their bad breath abilities that can just absolutely destroy a normal run of a game and get you game over in a heartbeat. Alright, come on over, coin counter. Oh, he's dead already. Awesome. I love when crit hits work, don't you? So now we're gonna have everything chase us over to where we have to deal with two more bowls. Yeah, those guys are staying out of the way, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Alright, let's deal with you. Then come over here. Now that will help us in more ways than one. And then backflip off of you in order to get the final boss. And if you haven't figured out what the final boss is, well, this should come as no surprise given what we've already seen so far. Oh, what am I stuck on? You can see how much they're trying to get me. But don't worry, I have a perfect way to eliminate most of these things. Yeah, in one fell swoop. Yeah, and just for demonstration purposes, eat the fruit. Alright, we have made it to our final dungeon, the Wanderer's Palace. So what's unique about Wanderer's Palace is that you, of course, saw Orin Vale has a featured enemy known in previous Final Fantasies and the Morbles. Here at Wanderer's Palace, it's a different type of enemy that this place is known for, and that's the Tonberry. Now, Tonberries, of course, you know them for being the little green guys with the lanterns and the knives. And in this game, what's really interesting about them is the fact that the Tonberries in the Final Fantasy XIV have a lot of lore associated with them. There's a specific warrior class that you play as where you go along and you actually get to see a lot of lore being flushed out. So it's really great to be able to see something like that in this. And you discover basically the origin story of the Tonberry, and you get to experience it firsthand. Alright, let's see if everyone and everything is here. Alright, perfect. Yeah, the enemies that you have to kill are random in order to force the door to open, but we got what we were looking for, so that means we have a clean line to the boss. And we'll try and get rid of him as fast as we can. There we go. Alright, let's go now to deal with the Tonberries, because now we have to get them for what they're known for, which is the lantern oil. Yeah, given that they hold these lanterns, we now have to take their oil and use it for ourselves. Alright, run up here, say hello to you, you to come my way. Finish the rest of you off. See, now we're gonna have to use these flasks of lantern oil to advance ourselves further by using it on these rusted devices to get them spinning and to open that door on the right. Okay, make a run over here to this third device. And we're gonna have to keep doing this because we gotta get ourselves more oil, but it's on the opposite side. So we're gonna go over here. Hopefully do away with these soldiers as fast as we can, because this area is all about speed. We have to work as quickly as we can and try and kill the enemies as fast as possible, or else we're going to be in a bit of a bad situation. Because there's the two Tonberries that we need. But we're going to need to pull them away from this big Tonberry. Now we just have the little Tonberries to ourselves. Alright, we're only going to take one flask of oil because we need to use it over here. We're going to try to outrun this boss over here. Oh, it's not going to work. Yeah, the Tonberry Stalker was all over us. Wow, he actually ran a lot faster than he normally does. Yeah, he got there a lot faster than he usually does. Because, yeah, normally I'm able to do that no problem. Yeah, he got his big butt over there a lot quicker than he usually does. So, As a result of that, it takes me longer, because you'll notice I can't damage the guy. But he can sure damage me. So now we pick up the last flask of oil, use it over here. That opens this door. And gets us familiar with an enemy that you probably know from Final Fantasy IV, known in various names and iterations. In this game, it's known as a Babawa. And we're gonna do away with him. He tries to bring his friends along for dessert, but the dinner party's gonna get canceled here in a moment. Now I get these tomberries to come my way. Now I want everything to come together here. I'm gonna hit you so I can draw you over. I need to do all these things. So we can access that lantern oil. There we go. Alright, so since we're at the final boss, time stops when I complete the dungeon, which is to leave the dungeon. Once I kill the final boss and leave the dungeon, that's when time stops. Alright, let's make a break for it. So of course, since we dealt with tomberries in this place, it only makes sense that our final boss here is the Tomberry King. Let's go ahead and get rid of him for good. And make a break for the exit. And that is going to be time. Yeah, no PB, but hey, it's still a decent run. It's actually better than the marathon that I did this at, where I did this category. Actually beat my time from that by over a minute. So I'm not too disappointed with that, and can definitely say that it was really cool to do this run for you guys. And so thanks for letting me do this. This isn't the last I'm doing this for Final Fantasy XIV, because I've got some more stuff to show off for you guys. So give me a minute to get everything set up, and we will show off more of this awesome game. So back in a moment, guys. Thanks.